So for the Newport Mitts, we're going to use our two colors of color 3. Spice is going to be for the ribbing, and then Ivory is going to be for the main body of our mitts. You'll also need a pair of scissors, possibly a stitch marker to keep track of where your thumb holes will be, and a blunt tapestry needle along with a 4mm crochet hook. We're going to be using this hook throughout the whole pattern. That way your mitts won't stretch out as much as they would with a larger hook size. So let's go ahead and get started. So both the left and the right mitt are made the same. There's only one little difference. There's one round that it's a little bit different depending on which one you're making, so that your thumb hole ends up on the right side, because we're going to keep the seam of our mitt right here in the middle of our wrist. So we start with the ribbing, and we're going to take our spice color, your contrasting color, and put a slip knot on your 4mm hook. And then we want to chain 11. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then working into the second chain from the hook, we're going to single crochet into each chain all the way across. And I'm sure if you've watched the Newport Cowl video and the Newport Beanie video, this is all sounding very familiar to you. So make sure that you check out those two patterns as well. I'll put a link in the description below for you. But with both those patterns as well as the mitts, we always are going to be starting out with our nice single crochet ribbing. And then for row 2, we chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet, back loop only all the way across. And then you can definitely adjust the size of your mitts if you need to. This pair should fit most adults, maybe even some teens. So if you want to adjust, you would need to add or subtract rows of ribbing, making sure you have a multiple of 6. So for our mitts, we're just going to repeat row 2 until we have a total of 30 rows of ribbing. Once you have your 30 rows of ribbing, we want to chain 1 and bring our other end up to our working end, and we're going to slip stitch across to join. I like to go through the back loop only of my working row and then through the chain stitch of the beginning row. And then we just continue to slip stitch, making sure we're lining up our chain stitches and our working row stitches as we go. These last 2 stitches can be a little bit hard to get into and a little bit tricky to see. So make sure that you're counting and you're not missing any of those stitches. Okay, so now we can flip our cuff right side out. And you can also try it on at this point too, just to make sure that you're getting the nice fit around your wrist. And then we want to switch to our main color, which is the ivory. Okay, so I like to just kind of bring that new yarn through the loop, and then we're going to chain 3, and the chain 3 will not count as a stitch during this. And then I just kind of pull on that ribbing yarn tightly so it kind of pulls it back down into the ribbing, and then we can fasten that off. And then for round 1, we're going to be working 1 double crochet into the edge of each row of ribbing. So once you make it all the way around, you'll slip stitch to the top of that first double crochet to join. And then again, we're working in joined rounds, but we're not turning in between the rounds. So for round 2, we're chaining 1, work a single crochet into the same stitch as our join, and in the next 2 stitches. So then we work one of our 3 double crochet clusters. So we yarn over, insert our hook into the stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, and we do that step 2 more times. So yarn over, insert hook into same stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, once more, yarn over, insert stitch into this or hook into the same stitch, yarn over, drop a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. You should have 4 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and draw through 3, yarn over, draw through 2, and then we're going to single crochet 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just make sure you can use your fingers, kind of push that cluster to the front so it's facing you. And then we just repeat that all the way around until we have 2 stitches remaining. Okay, so just finished our last 3 double crochet cluster, and then we want to single crochet into the last 2 stitches, and then slip stitch to our first stitch to join. So that's the end of round 2. For round 3, we're going to chain 3, work a double crochet into the same stitch as the join, and into each stitch all the way around. Okay, so that's our last double crochet. Slip stitch to the first stitch to join. For round 4, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work those 3 double crochet clusters, but this time we're going to start the first one in the same stitch as the join so that they kind of sit in between the previous cluster rows, little bobbles. So work your 3 double crochet cluster into the same stitch as your join. And then work 5 single crochet, and we're just going to repeat that all the way around. So here's our last 2 single crochets, and then slip stitch to the top of your first cluster to join. Now for round 5, we're going to chain 3, and we're going to double crochet in the same stitch as the join and in each stitch all the way around. My wild ball of yarn is creeping into the frame here. So just continue single crocheting in each stitch all the way around. So once you get all the way around, slip stitch to the top of that first stitch to join. And then what you want to do is we want to repeat rows 2 and 3 one more time. And then I'll show you how to split off and make those thumb holes for either side, either left hand or right hand side. Okay, so now what I want to show you is the only difference between the left and the right for your mitts is round 8. So I have both of them worked up through round 7, and then what I want to do is I'm going to use some stitch markers. I find this helpful, especially for, which one is it? Our right hand glove or mitt, because we're doing the thumb hole on this side. So basically if you lay your palms up like this, your left one, we're going to do the thumb hole right at the beginning, but your right one, we're not going to do it until the very end. So what we want to do is we want to mark 5 stitches over from our join. Actually, let's mark the 6th stitch. And then we're skipping 6 total. So from this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know that from these 2 points, I'm not working any stitches there. And then you can mark the same on the other side, but I find that since we're starting kind of off with that, I don't need to mark it. So I'm actually going to show you the left mitt first, and then I'll show you the right. So actually I'm going to put a stitch marker into my working loop and set that one aside. And then, okay, so for round 8, this is the left, your left hand mitt. We chain 1, and then we work a 3 double crochet cluster into the same stitch as the join. And then we want to single crochet 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So normally we would do 5 and then another cluster. Instead, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're skipping 6 stitches. So this would be a single crochet, that's 1. The cluster would be 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet. That makes up our 6. Sorry, no. 4. Single crochet, cluster stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet. That's the 6 stitches we're skipping. So this next stitch after we skip the 6 will be a single crochet. And then we'll work another 3 double crochet clusters. So that's 1, 2, 3. Finish that off. And then work 5 single crochet. So we're trying to keep the pattern the same. We're just skipping some stitches here, and this is where our thumb will be able to fit through. But then we just continue on with our pattern as we normally would all the way around. Okay, and then we slip stitch to the top to join. So here, I'm gonna pull a long loop so I don't lose it, but I just wanna show you what we've created here. So if I slip my left hand, haven't woven in my ends yet, slip my left hand in and then stick my thumb through. This is now our thumb hole of our mitt, just like that. So now we wanna create that same thing on the right hand side. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, because in the rest of the mitt they're exactly the same. So I'm going to take this stitch marker out, put it in my working loop for my left mitt, and then, oh my goodness, come on, there we go. We're going to work our right mitt. So now this time when I slip my hand in, I want my thumb on this side of the mitt. So again, just like the other one, for round 8, start with a double crochet cluster in the same stitch as your join, and then single crochet for 5. Make sure that cluster pokes out at you. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and just repeat that all the way until you hit this first stitch marker. Okay, so our last stitch before we want to chain and skip is a double crochet 3 cluster, but in order to get that to kind of stick out towards us, we actually want to go ahead and we're going to slip stitch into the same stitch that we did our cluster, just so that it kind of will poke out still, but that doesn't count as a stitch. Now we can chain 6, 4, 5, 6. We're going to skip over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we know our last 5 stitches are going to just be single crochets. And then again, slip stitch to the top to join. Okay, so now I'm going to take my stitch marker out there, put it here, and take this one out. And now when I put this mitt on my right hand, you can see my thumb goes through there, but my seam is still staying in the center over here, the center of my wrist, just like the left-hand side one. So now what we want to do is we're going to work kind of straight up the rest of the way, and it's the same for both left and right mitts. So for row 9, we chain 3, double crochet into that same stitch as our join, and then double crochet into each stitch all the way around, and you'll be working into one side of those chain stitches that we made for your thumb hole. So let me get around to that area and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's the stitch for our cluster, and then if you look here, this is our slip stitch. We don't want to work into that. We want to work into the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chain stitches, just going through that back loop of the chain stitch. Got 2 more. Here's 5, and here is 6. And then we go back to working through both loops into those single crochet stitches. Ooh, my yarn's getting all kinds of tangled. And then of course, once we're finished, oh my goodness. We will slip stitch to the top to join. Okay, and then we'll do another, let's see, what would that be? Rows, 2, 3, 4. So rows 2 through 5 again. We want to repeat those again. So we want to have 2 more bobble sets to finish off our mitts. Okay, so our last step in finishing up our mitts is to add 1 round of single crochet using our contrasting color. So we're just going to join that and chain 1. And then just as we did when we were joining the main body yarn to the ribbing, just kind of pull on that main body yarn down until it kind of disappears. Then we just single crochet into the same stitch as our join, and in each stitch all the way around. And then of course, when you get all the way around, just slip stitch to the first stitch to join, and then we can fasten off and weave in all of our ends. And then you'll have a nice pair of fingerless mitts to go with your hat and cowl. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing.